So, quick check-in on the NaNoWriMo novel writing challenge. I've kind of hit a wall today, and I realize it's not even week 1 yet. I started early because November's very quickly just kind of crumbles. And I don't know if you can see the bottom of my screen there. It's about 19,500 words, and that is including like the outline that I did, the notes that I took with the NaNoWriMo prep that I did. I've gotten to that point in my outline where the story gets real vague. I don't really have a middle, and that 19,000 words is pretty much just Act 1. I had outlined Act 1 a lot better, and I knew where I wanted to go and how I wanted to get there. And I have reached Act 2, and I've slammed into a wall. I've gotten to that point where I had hoped that as I wrote Act 1, I would have more ideas for Act 2 and how to get from point A to point B and even just the points I wanted to go to, and I haven't. And on one hand, it is frustrating because I've had other rough drafts before that just they flow, and like the first draft just comes so quickly, and I can see the story that I want, and I know how to get there, and I can really get into like the headspace of the characters. This one is just not there right now for me. I'm having trouble like knowing Astoria as a character and not just like a Cinderella-esque character. Like I've made a few strides to like make her a little bit more selfish and make bad decisions, but I don't want to fall into that trap of having my main character make poor decisions on purpose to further the plot and then further her character development, because that is one thing in books that really annoys me as a reader, is when like the main character is making the obviously wrong and stupid choice, but if they didn't make that wrong stupid choice, there would be no book. Like, I don't like that as a reader. It annoys me, and I don't want to do it as an author. But that's just where I am after my first successful writing sprint and after my successful afternoon yesterday, where I sat down and I really went to town on it, as they say, and I got through Act 1. Ooh, but Act 2, because Act 2 is your longest part of the book and a lot happens, but I have no idea what I need to happen. Like, I'm feeling that sense of, I don't know how to describe it. It's not really imposter syndrome. It's more just the knowing that the book is not there yet. It's not good enough yet. And that deep-seated fear that it's never going to be good enough is just going to end up as one of those files on my computer that just sits there for a really long time because I don't know how to do with it. And I just get to put it kind of to the side there until another idea comes along that just forms a lot faster. And I have this bad habit of comparing every single rough draft to the rough draft that I did for Stars and Bones, the first book, Thief in the Castle. I have never written a rough draft so fast. I think, because I was going to use Thief in the Castle for a NaNoWriMo for whatever year that was, in like 2016 maybe, 17? One of those. I started plotting that book, and as plotting, I mean like world building. There was a lot of stuff that I made up that never made it into the book because it didn't really matter. But when I finally sat down, like I couldn't hold it in anymore. I started the rough draft like the week before November because I just couldn't hold it in anymore. I had that rough draft done in like 5 days because I couldn't stop. Because I was so into the story. I was so into the characters, like building their relationships and like building their stories. I remember going to a friend's house when I was working on Thief in the Castle and like having like withdrawal symptoms because I wasn't working on it and I wanted to get home and continue working on that book. And no other book since then has really gripped me. Every book since has felt more like work and not so much like I'm sitting down and writing a book because I enjoy it. And I think that's where I'm at with the Cinderella retelling right now too, is like the first several chapters I did, it was just fun. But now I've gotten to the point where it's not fun anymore. I am trying to squeeze creativity out of my brain that doesn't have any left. I want that creativity to be there. I want to have that drive, and I don't have it. But I've gone through this same conundrum with every single book that I have written and drafted and revised and published. Every single book I've done, I have gone through this exact same plight at the beginning when I don't really know what I want to happen, but I want it to be good enough to be written. And I know with like Thief in the Castle, there was a lot of things that had to be taken care of in revision because I just wrote to be writing. And there was so much that we took out in the drafting phase because one of those drafts, like the first or second draft, was like 173,000 words. And the finished Thief in the Castle is somewhere around 125. But oh, we cut out so much, and like I even cut out some before I submitted it to the publishers that I have now. And I can honestly say that every single rough draft since then has been a little cleaner. Like all of my rough drafts have been a little cleaner than the one before. Like they're closer to the first draft. And I think that is because I have a better understanding of what will stay in the book and what is, silly or stupid or like unfounded and what I'll toss out so that I can't just write to my heart's content anymore because I need it to be as close to that end draft as possible. It's a weird concept when I start thinking about it, yet it makes complete sense. But, as a whole, I would say I've made some really good progress so far. It's not as much as I want it to be. Of course, unless I have a finished draft, it'll never feel like it's enough. It never feels like I've done enough. It always feels like I could have done more. I could have done one more chapter or something like that. And I think that's just because writing a book is just a very time-intensive endeavor, and it takes a long time to get a book from that first spark of inspiration to the finished project. It takes months, sometimes years, even for practiced authors. You can't, it's not something you can just like sit down and do in a weekend. It's not like, making a YouTube video where you film an hour or two of you playing a game and then you edit that and then you're done. And I forget that sometimes. I've hit, it's kind of like rock bottom where I don't think I can have like the creative juices to make the rest of this book and that I won't finish it or that I can't finish it because my brain isn't there. But I've hit kind of the same pitfall in every single book and I climb out of it more times than I don't. There are a few books in my folder that I have just given up on because I can't think of anything else to go. I can't think of what the next step would be. So they just kind of get shoved under the rug, just kind of put away. And then I focus on books that I have more of a plot or that I can see where the plot is. So yeah, that's where I am for I guess week one, weekend one. I don't really want I don't where for it's late on what is it, Monday? I think this is Monday night. For like your first weekend of this novel writing challenge. I think I've done good. I mean, almost 20,000 words. That's excellent, even if at least a third of it isn't actually part of the draft. It doesn't matter. We're gonna say it's 20,000 words. We're rounding up. uh, so my plan is for this week. So like, because I won't write during the week, I try not to, so I can hold it off on the weekend. Then I try to read during the week instead. What I will focus on this week versus like the last week, I try to focus on like names and like overall plot, which I feel pretty successful about because I did those things. All my characters have names. But this week, I think my goal will be to try to think of the plot points for Act 2, like how I want Act 2 to play out. Because I know where Act 2 begins, which is Astoria failing to assassinate the prince when he came back to the city. and trying to impress her stepmom. I can't word too good after 8 o'clock, and it's 8:18. I've passed the line of intelligence at this point of the day. Because I know where Act 2 starts, which is the failed assassination of the prince, and Astoria assuring her stepmom that she will come up with a plan. And then Act 2 ends with the ball scene. Or is it the midpoint? See, I don't know these things, and I feel like I should. I don't know. I will try to think through these things, try to kind of do some practice outlines, because that's the thing. Practice outlines, try to put your plot points in to see how it fits and how it flows, and like, what if you move this up here? What if this happens before this over here? Then how does that affect this scene over here? It's time consuming, it's thought consuming, but it's one of those things like I can have going in the back of my mind, like behind other thoughts. It's like you're downloading a file while you're doing other things on your computer, kind of a thing, if that makes any kind of sense. But I hope your NaNoWriMo is going well, whatever that means to you, and I will check back in next week, and hopefully I will have some progress to report and not 10 minutes of me complaining that I didn't get as much progress as I wanted. And I might even put on makeup next week. I don't know. It wasn't happening today. I almost didn't do this video because I didn't want to have to put makeup on. I'm like, you know what? This is my face. It doesn't matter. And if it matters to you, go lick a rock. I don't know.